Hey guys, it's Joe Raiti with Raiti's Rides, and I am standing in front of a special treat that I have for you today. This bright red 2018 Chevrolet Corvette Grand Sport. Now I know a lot of you think that I'm like the Subaru expert and I have all this knowledge about Subarus, which I do, but guess what? I have even more knowledge about Corvettes because I am proud to say that I once owned a Corvette and I was devoted to the following, like a lot of other people out there, maybe some of the viewers right now who are devoted lovers to America's true sports car. So let me give you a little bit of history about the Chevrolet Corvette. Chevrolet Corvette came onto the scene back in 1953. A lot of people were disappointed with it because of two big issues. One, you could only get it in one color, white with red interior, and I think the bigger issue, which when you think sports cars that were performance, there really wasn't any performance. It was powered by a straight six with about 160 horsepower, and in today's day and age, even back then, that's not enough power for a true sports car. 1955 comes around, and there's a guy by the name of Zora Duntov who comes over from Europe to the United States and gets a job working for Chevrolet. It's this man who is credited with being the true father of the Corvette. Now, even though Zora did not create the Corvette, he was the man that came up with the idea to shoehorn a small block Chevy V8 underneath that hood, and that's what turned it into such a true performance car. Corvette's been made throughout the years. The reason why I call it America's true sports car is because it's always stayed true to its roots. Two-seat, ultra performance, and today we see that even more so. So let me go ahead and take you on a little tour of this Corvette. Now, what separates the Grand Sport from all the other Corvettes that are produced now is this front end of the car. The front end of this car is actually wider than a standard Corvette. If you go into a Chevrolet dealership and ask to see a standard Corvette, that Corvette's called a StingRay. The Grand Sport is one notch higher. Now, if you want the best of the best, what they have available is a Corvette called the ZO6. That comes with a supercharged engine and the same bodywork here. But I have this amazing Grand Sport, and what I feel personally is that this is the perfect balance, and you'll see why I love this car so much. So right at the front, you can see how Chevrolet decided to widen the front, and this is one of the features that I truly admire with this car. The way that they were able to open up the grille, you have your brake cooling ducts, but one thing that I love, and something that I don't envy about the engineers, is that this car looks like a Corvette. You know it, it has those styling cues. One thing I want to point out here while we're looking at the nose is the Corvette emblem. This emblem, even though it's changed shape, changed size, it's always been the checkered flag for that high performance that I was telling you about since 1955, and the Chevrolet flag, since obviously this is Chevrolet's star, the Corvette. Let's go ahead and take a look at this hood. Now, this hood is actually carbon fiber, and some of you might be surprised with that, because guess what? Ever since 1953, the Corvette has been fiberglass. So many of the pieces of bodywork are still fiberglass, but this hood here is total carbon fiber. One feature that I love that the engineers decided to do is put a functional heat extractor. Now what's gonna happen is that air is gonna come in through that big opening that I just showed you, and it's gonna draw the heat from outside of the engine compartment. Remember, heat is what robs us of high performance power. And that's what I really, really love about this car, is that it's all about performance. Let me go ahead and take you to the side here. Now, if you are a Corvette fan, you maybe have heard of an option called the Z51 package. When you go to buy a Corvette today, the Z51 package is no more. You want the Grand Sport. It's gonna give you those beefed up shocks. It's gonna give you the bigger brake rotors, the bigger calipers. I am in love with these wheels. I like what they've really done with the style, and I'm a big fan of the gloss black. You know, a lot of other manufacturers are doing a flat black. This gloss black really sets the car off and sets it apart from all the other Corvettes. As we work our way down the side, check it out. One thing you'll always notice about Corvettes is the side vents. Over the years, just like the emblem, they changed in shape and size, This is one thing that is Corvette specific, and one way to tell that this car is a Grand Sport right off the bat, because that's going to be your biggest problem. If you're not a Corvette guy or a Corvette girl, you're going to think that, first of all, this is just a standard Corvette, but you also might confuse it with a ZO6. This side vent is Grand Sport specific. Even if you didn't have a name here, you would know that this is a Grand Sport because of this divider right here. A ZO6 side vent is all black. So that's a major way to set apart the difference. Because remember, Grand Sport and ZO6, the car's actually wider than your standard Corvette. Let's go ahead and pan a little bit more down the side. I really like what they're doing with the side skirts. It's all about aerodynamic efficiency, guys. One thing that you've never really noticed a lot on Corvettes, they don't have big wings. They don't have big spoilers and all this other stuff. It's all about channeling that airflow and giving you the downforce. And I just simply love this car. I mean, it's red, it's a Corvette, it's made in the USA. Who wouldn't love that? Let's go ahead and continue our way to the side. Remember how I told you there's some differences between a Grand Sport and a ZO6? Here's another difference. This rear brake cooling duct on a ZO6 is going to be black. As you can see, it's color matched, this beautiful bright red, and this is functional. Cold air is going to be dragged in by this vent, and it's going to cool those rear brakes, because we don't want to be on the track with overheating brakes. We'll go into a turn, we won't be able to slow the car down. If we drop down just a little, another Grand Sport specific is this side vent here. You'll also see this on a ZO6. Now on a ZO6, it's color matched. Here, you'll see they put the black finish. That's how you know that this is a Grand Sport compared to a ZO6. And then we're gonna finish off the rear end. They've really gone huge with these wheels. Remember, on the new Corvettes, the actual rear wheel is a wider diameter than the front wheels. The reason why is when you're turning, a smaller diameter is gonna give you better steering response. You don't want these 22-inch wheels on the front. On the rear though, it allows you to put more rubber, and more rubber is gonna give you that grip to claw you down to the ground. One of my personal favorite things that I adore about this car is this rear spoiler here. This rear spoiler is functional. It's not some huge big wing. And what's really neat is if you look back here, it's adjustable. These screws here are Allen screws. You get an Allen key, you can actually adjust the pivot of the screws. And that will actually adjust the offset of the spoiler, whether you want more downforce or less downforce. And then I think the engineers hit the nail right on the head with the rear end of this car. Now, I'll be honest. At first, I wasn't a big fan about these taillights, because as you are probably aware, if you are a Corvette fan, is taillights on Corvettes have been traditionally round. These, they're not really round, but you could see how they took some round and they squared it off. And to be honest with you, I think at the end of the day, it doesn't matter. You know that this is a Corvette. It's got the 4 taillights. It's got the emblem. I'm really loving this high performance exhaust that they're putting on all their models. This allows you to not upset your neighbors. You could start the car up, it'll be quieter in the morning when you're going to work. When you get out on that highway and you want to let it rip, you twist that knob and these things are gonna come to life and give you that roar, because that's what driving this car is all about, is hearing that thunderous V8. You know that first of all, you're in something very powerful, and nothing screams more than the United States of America than a screaming V8 engine. So I don't know about you, but I'm ready to check out that screaming V8 underneath the hood of this car. Let's go check it out. So here we are, underneath this hood. This is painted carbon fiber. There's your functional heat extractor that I showed you at the start of the video, and here's the heart of this beast. You have this beautiful V8 engine pumping out 455 horsepower. Now, if you remember at the start of this video, I was telling you how if I'm gonna buy a Corvette, it would be the Grand Sport, and here's why. The Corvette Grand Sport is naturally aspirated. What that means is that this engine's making 455 horsepower all by itself. It doesn't have a supercharger like the ZO6, and it definitely doesn't have any turbochargers. I like that because you're gonna get great throttle response and you're gonna have a nice balance. You could go into a corner, get on the gas, and not have to worry about spinning up the tires. All right, so with this Corvette, you're gonna be able to save yourself a lot of money, because not only have the engineers been able to get an amazing 455 horsepower, normally aspirated, but they're also going to save you money because guess what? On all Corvettes, you do not have to pay a gas guzzler tax. Now, if you don't know what a gas guzzler tax is, the government, they want to make some money on a high-performance car that you're buying if it drinks too much fuel. The engineers have been able to balance performance and fuel economy. Now, if you're saying, well, how much am I going to save? $100? Guess what? It's probably going to save you around $2,000 compared to going down to Ford and buying a Shelby GT350 or a BMW M4 or something like that. So you cannot go wrong with this car, performance-wise or also fuel economy-wise. Everything is exactly what harks back to the early 1950s. You have a nice V8 front engine mounted, everything. You open up the hood, even the way the hood opens. This is part of Corvette heritage. And if you ever get a chance, go to Bowling Green, Kentucky. They have the assembly plant there. You could go and see these amazing cars be built any day of the week, except for Sundays, obviously. So let's go ahead and see what have the engineers done for us inside, behind the wheel of this car. All right, so now I'm sitting behind the wheel of this Chevrolet Corvette Grand Sport, and you can see one thing I love what the engineers are doing is they've actually finally brought up the interior. The performance has always been there. Interior has been lacking when it comes to the European exotics and whatnot, but now the Corvette is up there. Great fin and finish. I really love the steering wheel. I love the attention to detail with the white stitching. One thing I want to mention is, guess what, guys? We have a traditional manual transmission in this Corvette. What I like what Chevrolet has done is, guess what? You could go ahead and option this car with an automatic, but they at least give you the option if you want to road through your gears, because I'm telling you right now, if you watch, the transmission on this thing is so nice and smooth. You feel the engagement of each and every single gear. This is a 7-speed manual transmission. So not only are you going to get the performance, but this is what also allows you to get that great gas economy that I was telling you about. Another little feature that I like about this, something that you may not know, is watch this. Here's the touch screen for the navigation and everything. Let's say you have something valuable you need to store in this car. There's nowhere to lock it. The glove box you can't lock. You can't lock the center console. What you do is you press this button here, the screen actually drops down. You could put your credit cards in there, your wallet, whatever. Hit the button, and there you go. You're like James Bond. You have it hidden. If the car has to be valeted, nobody's gonna know what's in there. And to gain access, you have to have a special code which you set up just for you. So, as you can see, I have every reason to love the interior of this car because it has the amenities, it has the performance, and it just has that nice feel that you know you're in America's sports car. All right, guys, you know, one thing that I wanted to just stress about this Corvette is when you're comparing this car, say to a BMW M4, say to a Porsche 911, a Camaro, a Mustang, any of the other cars that you might have on your short list that you're narrowing it down because you want a sports car, the reason why you want to choose this car is the same reason why I would choose this car. Every day you're going to be in this interior. Every day you're going to feel the amazing leather that they're using nowadays on these Corvettes. It's right up there with the BMWs, but you're not paying the BMW price. You have this wonderful steering wheel, something that you would find in a Porsche. But guess what? You're not paying that Porsche 911 price. One last thing for sure is going to be that heritage. When you're driving this car, just like say maybe your father had a Corvette 20 years ago, your grandfather, your grandmother, you're going to be able to drive a piece of American history. And that's something you're just not going to get with those other cars from those other companies. And I think you will see, just like I'm showing you right now, is that they did it right. They got the formula right. And like I said earlier, I don't envy these engineers. They have a lot of weight on their shoulders to make this car be a Corvette, but also be what a Corvette could possibly be. And that's the big dilemma. They hit it right on the head. So there you have it, guys. You know, this Corvette is something that I want to get right now. I plan on seeing myself in one of these in a very short amount of time. The Corvette means a lot to me. When I was younger and I owned my Corvette, my father and I did a lot of work to it. We took it down to the bare block. I found out what the true love was about building a high-performance engine. So I got to know what it's like to be an engineer on one of these Corvettes because I was my own engineer with my father on my own Corvette, giving it more power, giving it more performance. I say that this car is probably my favorite car. And the reason why is that, yeah, I could go down to Alfa Romeo, spend about the same amount of money, get an Alfa Romeo 4C. That car is great on a track. This car, it's gonna be even better on the track, but I get to drive it every single day of the week, and that's something that's special to me. Another thing is, and one last thing that I wanna point out that you probably didn't know, the name Grand Sport, there's a history there. Back in the 60s, Chevrolet, like the other American manufacturers, did not want to put any factory effort into any racing programs. It was the father, Zora Duntov, that created 3 special edition race cars. He was able to sneak out the back door, and guess what he called them? Grand Sports. So I want to thank Zora Duntov. I actually had the honor of meeting him one day about 20 years ago before he passed away, and I thanked him for all the great work that he did for Corvette. And when you're driving a Grand Sport, you could be part of that heritage, and I definitely want to be there right with you. So that's it for today. If you have a ride that you would like to see featured on Raiti's Rides, go ahead, leave me a comment down in that comment section. Go visit my website, raitisrides.com, without the apostrophe. And I'm telling you right now, you would love for me to review your car, because I will do not only your car right, but I'll also take care of you as well. So that's it for today. I'll see you on the next ride.